Trauma can change the course of a life, but it can also become the doorway to profound growth and healing. In this episode, I'm joined by award-winning health expert Nicole Kerr, whose journey began with a devastating accident and a near-death experience as a young cadet in the U.S. Air Force Academy. Nicole shares how trauma shapes us, why healing is rarely a straight line, and how the very experiences that break us can eventually help guide us and support others. Welcome to Dial Up Intuition, a podcast that invites you to awaken and expand your intuition. I'm your host, Kat Sanders. I was a radio and television broadcaster before a massive brain hemorrhage caused me to flatline. That life-changing event led to a beautiful near-death experience, and when I came back, I returned with some profound truths and the ability to connect with the other side. In this podcast, we'll explore these truths and learn how to strengthen your intuition and intuitive gifts. You'll hear conversations with remarkable intuitives who'll share how their gifts came alive, evolved, and became part of their daily lives. So whether you're just beginning your intuitive journey or you're ready to go deeper, this is your space to be inspired, guided, and reminded that your intuitive gift was always within you. So let's begin and dial up our intuition together. Today, I am pleased to introduce my guest, Nicole Kerr. Now, Nicole is an award-winning health expert and co-author of Eating the Rainbow, Lifelong Nutritional Wellness Without Lies, Hype, or Calculus. She's appeared on CNN, PBS, CBS, ABC, the Food Network, and many other outlets, sharing her refreshing approach to health and wellness. Now, Nicole has spent more than 30 practical years working across government, healthcare, academia, and the military, helping people make meaningful choices for lifelong well-being. But her work is also deeply personal. As a 19-year-old cadet at the U.S. Air Force Academy, Nicole experienced a traumatic accident that led to a near-death experience. And today, we're going to talk about trauma, why we experience it, how it shapes us, and how dealing with it is often much more complex and nonlinear than we would expect. So welcome, Nicole. I'm so pleased to have you here today.
Oh, thank you, Kat. I'm delighted to be on your show.
Great. So you've been through an awful lot of trauma in your life. Would you share with us a little bit about that accident when you were 19 years old?
Yeah, I think the best way to explain it, photos are worth 1,000 words. So I'm going to put this up here for your audience on YouTube to see, but it's a picture of the 1965 Corvette convertible that I was in as a passenger when I was 19 years old.
Wow.
And yeah, so you can see there's just nothing left of that. It's all
nothing
just
at all.
Yeah.
I'm so surprised that I'm looking at you today after that accident. Wow.
Well, I will tell you, I am not here by my own volition. It was definitely a divine intervention that caused me to come back from the dead and to be here today, because you look at that crash and you go, how could anybody survive it? And the truth is I didn't survive it. I was actually pronounced dead at the scene of the crash. And it took the first responders anywhere from 15, 16, 17 minutes to get to me. So I was clinically dead for that long. And the only sign of life that they could get when they started to do this sternal knuckle press on me was my right eye dilated, the pupil dilated and opened. And at that moment, my soul, which had already gone across to the other side when I was in the air, getting ejected out of the Corvette. So my soul went over to the other side, and now it's coming back in through my eye. So that saying that we often hear, our eyes are the window to our soul,
yes.
That literally was the window, the opening for my soul to enter my body again. And as soon as that happened, they were able to get a blood pressure of 60/0 on me. Now, 120/80 is normal. So you can see I'm still in between life and death. And so they did CPR on me all the way to the hospital. And it was just touch and go there. They just wanted to get me stable that night. And then I wound up 4 months in the hospital, 7 weeks in ICU, massive injuries, and every time I started to get better, Kat, something would happen and I'd get worse. Something would always seem to break that record, building up and building up, and I'm getting better and better and better. And then boom, something else. I have to have another surgery, or I have to have emergency surgery, where I coded in the operating room because I wanted to go back to that white light that I saw that didn't involve suffering. It didn't involve pain. When I experienced that white light on the other side, it was just so peaceful, and there was no pain, and there was no negativity, and there was no judgment. I mean, it was just pure essence, brilliant God's love, light. And that cocoon of that light is what I was seeking again. I wanted to go back to that. So
much easier than that body that you were in that was so broken. And you weren't even driving that car. So this just happened to you.
Yes. Yeah. And, I had figured out by then that the military wasn't what I wanted. It was what my father wanted for me. And I think a lot of us get conditioned, if you come from a very dogmatically positioned household where your parents know better for you than you know for yourself what to do and how to do it. I was just trying to please my father by going into the service academy and, becoming a lieutenant in the Air Force. And I realized first day of boot camp, my soul knew it was in the wrong place. It did not want to train to kill people, because that's ultimately in the military what you're doing is training to fight for our country. And I was like, I couldn't quit though. I think that was the issue, was the shame of quitting. I couldn't deal with it. It was like I would disappoint my dad at such a level, and the congressman who nominated me, and all the people who was telling me how special I was to get, appointed to the Air Force Academy, which it is a big deal. So you don't go out there and quit, you got to endure it. You got to suffer through it. You got to make it through it, even though you don't really want to. And I wish I had been given permission to quit. I really do, because none of this would have happened. It would have been a lot easier. But my path took a different journey, and the crash happened as a way to get me out of the abuse and the fear that I was in at the academy. And thank God, I did come out of it physically as well as I have. Mentally, it's been a whole different story, struggling and the shame of dealing with a lot of the issues that surfaced around the crash. And then there is a concept that your audience may not be familiar with called spiritual trauma. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but there are different types of trauma. It's not just physical trauma that people experience.
Right. I've definitely have heard of it, and I'll let you address that as well, since this is something you experienced. But tell me, while you were in that light, tell me a little bit about what you experienced in that place.
Okay, so my memory came back 19 years later. The only memory I had when I woke up in the ICU 12 hours after they had found me was the bright white light. Like I was in this tunnel of light, and it felt like I was an astronaut floating in outer space. The awe and the wonder and the brilliance. I felt so safe and so like cocooned, wrapped in it, like a little cocoon, a butterfly cocoon. I felt like that little cocoon, I was all warm and snuggly inside that. Just the brilliance of light. And it's not a light like the deer in the headlight light. It's not that. There's no shock value to it or disturbance at all. But what I realized, Kat, that was the love of God. That to me, feeling that, whoa, you want to talk about powerful. It was, there's really no words to describe it. I know many people that have NDEs have a hard time putting the words on the experience because it's so far removed from our vocabulary, how to describe something that is beyond our wildest dreams. Because, like I tell people, even on the other side, there are more colors over there than the colors that we have here and in the Crayola color box,
Exactly.
But for the life of me, I can't remember what those colors what you would meld to look like them, now that I'm back here. But I know that there was just more colors over there, and there was, the music was different and all these things. And so to me, having to have gone through this experience and coming out to where I am now, and my memory coming back 19 years later, that was really the point in my life where my spiritual transformation began, because remembering what I had seen and heard and experienced on the other side was now aligned with me. It was concrete. And people say, well, why do you think, 19 years is a long time? to be without any memory. And I said, two things. When you're dealing with trauma, any kind of trauma, usually you'll have repressed memories. And a lot of sexual abuse, people that are sexually abused, they lose their memory of it, and it's
they want to lose their memory of it. They push it away because they don't want to deal with it. It's very common.
Yeah. So 19 years, I am going to work at the CDC, and I stopped at Starbucks and got my coffee. And all of a sudden, it's like a download. It's like I'm watching a video of how I'm sitting in that Corvette as the passenger. I couldn't ever understand how, like, my left foot got cut off, and I had all these massive, really severe injuries up near my female parts. We'll just say that, inside the thigh and all that. Massive. I had to have skin grafts. I mean, it was, plus I, severed my right wrist, and my pelvis on both sides was fractured. So I kept wondering, how did those injuries happen? I did not injure my spine. Thank you, God. And my brain, I had a traumatic brain injury, but it did resolve. So I all of a sudden in this movie now I'm watching, I have one foot on the dashboard, and you know how you put the other foot on over it, kind of like across.
Right.
That's what I was doing, and I was back because it was a Corvette convertible. The top was down, and I was just chilling there, and that's what I realized. Now I've had a couple of nurses tell me, never put your legs up on the dashboard when you're a passenger or you're driving. That's the worst thing that you can do. So
well, now they should have told you that beforehand.
So anyway, the whole movie unfolded, and I didn't go to work. I went to my chiropractor, and he does body work, and I sat at his office till he could fit me in, and he said, Nicole, these are repressed memories. And he was able to help me bring up the memory to the moment that I flew out of the car through the windshield, and I got stuck up in the air because I knew when I hit the ground, Kat, I was going to die. And I cried out, oh my God, help me. And at that moment, an angel came and took me over to the other side. Mm-hmm. And when I hit the ground, I felt no pain. People ask me that all the time. Did you experience any pain? And I said, no. And I will pretty much 99.9% of the time, anybody that's in a traumatic incident where they lose their life and don't come back, they didn't feel the pain. Their soul left prior to the impact. You can rest assured that they didn't go out feeling horrific pain.
That's really helpful for people to know. With my brain hemorrhage, I felt the pain initially, and then it was taken away from me. The pain was gone. And I hear that from so many people with a near-death experience. The pain is taken away.
So that I know is really important for people to hear, because none of us want our loved ones or people to suffer when they're passing.
Right.
So that was my experience. And then that night I went home, and when I went to bed, the rest of the memory downloaded, and it was me being on the other side, talking to angels. I had an angel that had taken me over, and his main message to me is to not fear death. Okay, you know this. You work in this field. We are a death denial society.
Yes, we are. We don't even want to talk about, how do we plan for it? Or let's, what do I want when I have my funeral? Oh, no, we can't talk about that. Not even when you're 80, 90 years old. No, we can't talk about that.
It's like if we talk about it, I mean, it's going to happen. No? Well, I have to tell you, it is going to happen.
It is 100% of us. It's going to happen.
Yeah. And it really is the only thing in life that all 8 billion of us souls have in common is we are going to make our transition eventually.
Sorry to tell you, listeners, you're going to die. We all are going to die at some point. And it's okay to talk about, and it's not such a horrific thing. It's absolutely beautiful, and we really shouldn't fear it, because for me, it was a beautiful, beyond beautiful experience. And I hear that from everybody that I've talked to. And I know that there are supposedly reports out there of people that have said, oh, I went into darkness. And most of the time they say, and then the light came on.
Yes.
But it's a beautiful experience.
Absolutely. It's not this doom and gloom and dread and negativity at all. It is, like, I concur 100%, the beauty and the brilliance and just the love of it. And there is no pain. It really is like if you've ever been put under in an anesthesia and an operation, all of a sudden you're like talking to the doctor, and next thing you know, you're out.
Yeah.
And then they go, excuse me, Miss Kerr, open your eyes, wake up, and it's like you wake up and you're like, where have I been the past 20 minutes? Well, that's kind of like what death is. You just wake up and you're in a different reality,
Only you've experienced this unconditional, beautiful love beyond anything you can even imagine.
Yeah.
So live your life fully without fear of death, because it's glorious.
Well, and I think that is an issue with us, is, okay, we're human. We have to acknowledge that we are human. We're not just all in the spiritual realm. And the human part of us does have fears, but most of our fears are irrational. And I think it's important that you have to address, especially if you fear death. I believe your beliefs about God shape your relationship with death. So if you were raised like you or I, Southern Baptist for me, but Baptist, and I also got Lutheran, there was a God presented to us that was dualistic. It was a male. He loved you, but yet on the other hand, there were a bunch of rules, and if you broke those rules, you were gonna be condemned. And, the wrath of God would come on you, and you could burn in hell. And I mean, it was all these fear-based images that you would be eternally separated from God and your family. And no child wants to grow up with that. So if you've still got that belief system going on in your body and you haven't dealt with it, it's going to be your default operating system. Even though you're trying to think yourself differently, you gotta go back and undo this programming that you were basically indoctrinated into. And it takes a while to unwind all of that. It's not just my experience is it wasn't just a flip of the switch and all of a sudden, I have this new concept of God. But that is where my journey started, was waking up, getting that memory back and understanding what I experienced was making me question all the beliefs that I grew up with, including family obligations, including your role in the family, and that you couldn't believe differently from the family. We all had to believe the same way and be on the same page. No, it's you have to break out of that, and that is what this is done for me. It made me break out of the bubble that I had been living in and start seeing life in a more expanded way and be open to different concepts and different realities that were going on. And it made so much sense, because when you actually can release that fear and know that you're going to go to some place that's beautiful and welcoming, and you'll see your family members there, your ancestors, your pets will be over there. I mean, it's like, wow, you're going to be going, why was I scared all those years? And I quit. I didn't really live my life. I didn't take those risks because I was in such fear something bad would happen to me. So you have to really work with the part of your brain that's the amygdala, the fight, flight, freeze part.
Right.
Because if you're in that sympathetic mode all the time, you are going to lose your sense of clarity. You're not going to be making decisions for your highest and greatest good. That has to come from the prefrontal cortex, where you have all your executive reasoning, and you, with your brain aneurysm, all of this, how important this prefrontal lobe is and what it does for the body. So in order to get your clarity, you got to address the fears. And like I said, most of them are irrational. And they come from the existence of these limiting belief systems. So you have to start, that's the transformative work you have to do. You have to start addressing these belief systems that no longer work for you, whether you're a people pleaser, whether you're stuck with these identities that I have to be the good daughter, the good wife, all of these things that are superimposed on you that keep you from really discovering and loving and being who you were meant to be.
Now, why do you think that you've experienced all this trauma and shame? I mean, you were raised in a home that was very, very strict. And you went through this experience and came out the other side with additional things that you had to deal with. It wasn't just, I had a car accident and I broke my arm and then I had to deal with it. You had extensive damage to your body that you had to continue to deal with for many, many years. In fact, I'm sure you're still dealing with it like I am, but physically on your body, even worse. So why do we as souls come into these bodies and have to deal with all of this? What is the benefit to us, or what is the reason in your mind that we deal with all of this trauma and shame and all of this. Is there a benefit? Are we being punished? Are we, why do we go through all of this?
Well, let me dispel the myth that we are going to be punished. We are never punished by the universe, the divine, whatever. They don't operate in that good and bad terms. That's a earth term. So there's no punishment, there's no judgment. And that is a real big one, because most of us judge ourselves. But we have to go back to what is our purpose here with our soul? And in my opinion, our soul is here to evolve, to grow, to expand the capacity to love, and to learn these lessons that we came in, that we needed to learn to get that soul up to a higher level or a higher vibration. And so in order to do that, it seems like here on Earth School, the only thing that's going to get us to really change is an experience. You have to have an experience that brings up suffering and brings up pain. And I don't believe suffering is optional. I think it goes hand in hand with pain. And so that's how you move through this. Because if you had this powder puff life, you wouldn't need to keep evolving. So yes, we're all here to learn those lessons, and our growth, every soul is different. We're not all on the same speed of development, so to speak. And that's why I think people that have our experiences, Kat, we're old souls, okay? We have been around many, at least 100 incarnations, okay? And so we are able to take the pain and the suffering and transform that, and be able to speak about our messages that we received on the other side, that it is, God is love, that we're all one consciousness, that there is no fear of death. All of these, I've never met you or other indie eaters, and we're all having the same messages basically being brought down here. That is not by accident. That is a design to show how many different experiences people can have, but yet the core essence of what you experience still stays the same.
Yeah, isn't that interesting that you and I, different parts of the country, we meet, we talk, and we have some of the very same experiences from our near-death experience. We want to show people or to teach people there's no fear of death. We have these experiences, and I think that we sign up for some of these experiences. Yes, there's free will, but I think we came into this life. I came into this Kat Sanders body and said, I'm willing to have a tougher life, because I know that I'm going to be able to learn as a soul, or to grow, to experience more if I have a little bit tougher life than if I have, we talked about a powder puff life. Too easy. Too easy. What am I going to experience if everything's just handed to me on a silver platter? I want that tough life. And you had one with a parent or parents that, are going to say, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. I'm going to raise you in this little, steel box so nothing can happen to you, because they were afraid that something might hurt you or touch you. So no, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't, do anything. And it's going to be my way or the highway. And let me tell you, I'm going to beat that into you, maybe literally, and it's going to be this way. And so you're raised in a tough household, and you go out and you do everything you can to please your parents. And all these bad things happen to you anyway, because you can't be protected from everything in the world. And you still have this horrific accident.
Yeah, most of us quit believing in the God that we were raised with a certain religion, because we are praying for something and it's not happening. In fact, things get worse, or other things happen, and you're like, the abuse isn't stopping. I'm asking you to please stop the abuse. Can't you see how it's hurting? And nothing changes, and so you over time you just go, well, my God must not care about me, and so you personified God also as this male, that is able to do all these things, because you're told he's a white-haired man up in the heavens. But I want to just briefly touch back on the trauma thing. There is a family legacy of trauma that's also passed down. And anytime you have a physical trauma, you are also going to have an emotional trauma that goes along with it. And that has probably been my hardest work, is dealing with the emotions, because we are very illiterate country when it comes to emotions and expressing emotions. Most of us are taught not to get angry, especially as women. Don't hurt your parents. All these messages where you're not allowed to express, especially your disagreement, or if opinion didn't resonate with others. Well, it doesn't make sense that the Bible is God's word, because who wrote about Jesus in Gethsemane if Jesus was there alone? Who's there to watch that, to record that? You start asking these questions that don't make sense, and then they don't want to hear that. They don't have an answer for that. You just have to blindly agree with it. So, it's really important that you look at what are the belief systems your family is handing down to you. And if they don't align with who you are now, then this is the time in your life where you said, I got to break out of these, because I am not really honoring and loving myself, because I've got these barriers and beliefs that say I have to stay in fear, or I have to do what they do and they tell me to do, or else, And so I think a lot of people are starting to wake up and realize it's okay to be the black sheep in the family, that our birth families are not necessarily the ones that are always going to be there for us. We have actually soul families that we come in with, so you start finding some of your other soul family members that I think start showing up in your life as well, to realize that, you have that connection, and that's really more important than the birth connection.
Those of us who have been to the other side seem to come back with something they need to shout from the mountaintops. Right? We all seem to. Now I come back and I get these gifts. All of a sudden I'm talking to dead people and I go, whoa, and so one of the things, or some of the things I need to shout from the mountaintops, is that we have this beautiful connection with everything. We are one with everything, the animals, the people from the other side, the plants and trees, everything is completely connected. And that's what I need to shout from the mountaintops, is we've got this connection. Let me teach you. Let me show you how beautiful it is. Don't be afraid of death. Be connected. And so that's why I do this podcast, is to help people be connected and not be afraid, and to live their life fully. What is the thing that you need to shout from the mountaintops? So go ahead and shout from the mountaintops.
It's the message I got over there. It was really clear, and it was very simple. You don't need to fear God. You are deathless. And so many of us have been raised in religions that made us fear God. And so I'm trying to help people, what is it when you break things out? Deconstruct their religious beliefs and start going, wow, does this make sense to me? And what is my true concept of God, source, all of this? To start questioning that. No one has the right answer for you, but please understand, God is not causing these wars. God is not up there letting bad things. Well, you did this, so something bad's going to happen to you. That's not true at all. Those are man-made theories and laws that we have been governed with and have been, just told this is the way it is. And I want people to start waking up and start questioning that, and start realizing they have a soul that is eternal. It goes on. When you leave this life, your physical body staying down there, I was up there, I could see my body in the ditch. Okay. It was not moving. It was not going anywhere. There wasn't anything in there to keep it alive. That part that was keeping me breathing and alive, off it flew. And that is the part of you that continues to live on and on and on. And it's going to take all the experiences that you had on earth this go around, and it's going to help you like a tapestry. Everything that you have done, your interactions, the way you've spoken to people, the way you've treated Mother Earth and all sentient beings, all is going to get filtered in your life review. And then you're going to be able to see and go, wow, why was I this way or that way, and learn that we really are all coming here to love ourselves and one another.
Right. And so now I've learned from this life, once we're past, I've learned from this life. Now I want to be coming back and I want to do it again, but I've learned so much. I'm hoping that this next time I'm going to do it better. I'm going to love more. It's all about love. It just boils down to that one thing. It is so much about love. And so if anybody can get anything out of what you've said, what I learned, what other people that go to the other side learn, love more. And so I think we probably need to wrap it up. It's just been running. We've kind of run out of time.
Can I go back and just address one thing?
Absolutely. Please do.
What is spiritual trauma? They probably don't understand what that is.
Please do.
Okay, so your spirit, first of all, cannot be traumatized. Okay, it is whole. It's got it all together. Okay, so you're not going to ever traumatize your spirit. What does count as spiritual trauma is when you believe you have to go through something external to get to God. So you're focused on the external instead of realizing that God is within you. You have a complete fallout of all your systems, your mental, your physical, your emotional, and your spiritual, when you're predicated on the belief that you have to go through something external to get to God, whether it's Jesus to get to God or whatever it is. But that is not, in my opinion, the truth. God is within every single one of us. You don't need to go anywhere else to access it. So that's what's
not separate. It just, everybody seems to make it feel like God is somebody separate, hanging up there in the sky somewhere. He is totally within us. I'm so glad you said that. Really appreciate you going there. And you've been through so much trauma, and yet you're using that trauma to help other people. And that's just beautiful. If we can forgive, as hard as it is, forgive what's happened, take the trauma that you've had and make good of it by loving other people, that is just the most beautiful thing in the world. And that's exactly what you're doing.
And get the help you need to process the trauma.
Sure.
There's so much more available now to help you process it.
Be able to talk about it like you've done and like you're doing, be able to get the help that you need, and then be able to take that bundle of trauma and shame that was people tried to throw on you, forgive, get help, and then move forward by using it to help other people. It's beautiful. Beautiful. Yep. Now, can you tell us, I know you've written a couple of books, and I know you have a website, and I know you do this to help other people. Can you please share with us how people can reach you and how they can find and buy your books?
Yeah, so my website is www.nicolekerr with a K, Kerr.com. And on there's a contact, and you can ask any questions you have. I try to respond to everybody that sends me a question or wants a free first chapter of my book. And the book that I've written that deals with my journey, my healing journey, and my NDE is You Are Deathless. And I have to ask you, Kat, real quick. You see this credential right there?
Yes.
Okay. And for those of you that are listening through the podcast, it's BTDT. Do you know what that means, Kat? I'm going to put you on the spot.
I don't. Okay. I don't. You've got me.
Been there, done that. And that is my credential for being able to talk about the NDE, because there's no school that you go to. There's no degree in, going over to the other side and coming back. It really is an experiential credential. And I tell anybody, if you experience something that doesn't have a field of study or a degree program, feel free to use that. And I did. I put it on my book. So people are asking me, what is that? I've never seen that.
I love that. Tell me that you can't, if you've had a near-death experience, that is a degree worth having. It's done the hard way, but that's something that other people can certainly not claim, that what happens when you die. If they haven't been there, they certainly can't talk about it with any credibility. And if you've been there, you know so much about what's really going on the other side. It's a beautiful degree.
Thank you. But yeah, you can find my book on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and it's more my healing journey. It has the NDE in it as well. But if you want to know what I've gone through in terms of different modalities of help, including even doing a shamanic journey. I mean, I have been there and done it in terms of trying to heal different aspects of my emotional self, my physical self, and my mental self. And
you most certainly have. And by the way, I have read the book. It's a wonderful book. So you really should go out and get it and read it. I highly recommend it. So thank you so much for coming on and being my guest and sharing your story with us. And I hope that people will go out and get the book because, like I said, it's a good one. It's a good one. So again, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming in.